Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm excited to have my friend Greg Kautz with me today. Greg, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell my viewers a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Jeff. What I am is I am a CPA. My career has been in accounting, finance, and technology. And currently, I am CEO of a company called Black Owl Systems.
Love it. Now, we're going to talk about what Black Owl does, but before we do, I want to talk about an interesting twist to your life. So you were a CPA and you were thinking about retirement, and instead you
Started a company with my son, who is also a CPA.
love it. So what led two CPAs to start a company? And then we'll talk about what you do in detail.
Well, I would say the last 20 years of my career has been focused on finance transformation, ERP implementations, new finance technology, helping finance leaders improve their processes. My whole career, from audit to being controller, CFOs, has always been focused on improving the process, streamlining it. And then when my son Derek came to me with the opportunity, he was so frustrated with this lease accounting software that he was putting in for the company he worked for up in Edmonton, in your neck of the woods. And he said he could build a better one. Well, you flash back to when Derek was in university and he was passionate about systems and technologies, even though he was going the accounting route. So there's always that passion for him. And when I saw the opportunity, and then I started talking to past clients, people in the industry, accounting firms, and saying, is there a need for a better solution? And hands down, the answer was yes. So
I love that. And I think that's the measure of an entrepreneur. We have this burning desire to make the world a better place. We have some weird frustration. And instead of saying why, we say why not? And then next thing we know. So how did two CPAs become software developers? It's
oh, good question. Well, I had another software venture during my career in barcoding and RFID technology, which it was very successful. We had a great exit from it. And, so I personally had that. And so when Derek came to me with this idea, I got that original team who did the development of that. We built a prototype. And from that prototype, that's when we went around shopping it around to the accounting firms to get their feedback. And long story short, that's how we became in the software business.
I love it. So what problem exactly does Black Owl solve?
Great question. So there's a lot of lease accounting solutions on the market right now, and our biggest competition is something that Bill Gates created under Microsoft called Excel. So there's that. There's the first generation solutions, but we focused on what were people struggling with those first generation systems. And that's where, we did a lot of market research, where people's frustrations were, and we took that feedback into our product. And so some of the core things of speed, performance, managing reassessments, modifications, we built that into the core foundation, leveraging technology. And this is where, it isn't just the programming language, it's how you design the database. So, we're very, very fortunate to have a lot of smart developers who've done world-class B2B, B2C systems, and they took that knowledge and they took that and the problems we're trying to solve. So they use technology to solve those, to build the core foundation of our system.
Love it. And for my viewers, we're going to focus on your journey into the world of retirement slash new venture launch. Um, so how big is the problem of lease accounting, and what was the main pain that you guys wanted to solve with Black Owl?
Yeah, well, the main pain is if you go back before 2019, lease accounting was basically accounting departments didn't care as long, it was debit expense, credit, cash. It was a line item. They never worried. So when the regulators changed it in 2019, where you had to capitalize your leases, what this created was you're taking one expense item and now you're putting it on the balance sheet as an asset and liability, and then you're creating depreciation and interest as if you bought it. So what you've done is you've gone outside the bounds of normal accounting and what normal accounting systems can do. And you put that burden into a group that was happily plugging along. And now all of a sudden you said, okay, you've got to be administering these lease contracts. Also, you've got to be doing some complex accounting on top of it. And if your month-end close and your year-end close processes weren't tight enough, we just added a little more complication to that. So every minute, every hour, every day that you can save in that cycle of the month-end close is value. You can't put a price to it because so many people in financial reporting throughout their careers, the quarter end's coming, oh, it falls on a weekend. They know they're working weekends because the dates don't change.
I love that. Now, who would typically be buying the software that you have? Is it your more larger entities with an in-house accounting department? Is it more external accountants? Who's the primary community that's actually actively buying and using this software?
There's a lot of the community. So it's from your small organizations who have a few accountants, maybe 10 to 20 leases, and they've been struggling with spreadsheets, so there's a market. Then your large enterprises, the global enterprises that are dealing with thousands to tens to 30,000 leases, where technology is critical, running reports and speed. So, it's a diverse market on the accounting side, but then you brought up, the accounting firms. So, they're the best door to getting into opportunities because they're seeing it, whether they're on the advisory side, where they're helping clients improve their processes, or on the audit side, where they've seen audit errors and people struggling with issues. They can make a suggestion, check out, you need a system, get off Excel, you know,
I love it. And by the way, Greg, the vast majority of my audience is the visionaries, the founders, and I feel like this is probably a great conversation for them. So let's talk directly to those founders. What kind of pain points are you going to help them solve? And quite frankly, we'll get into it, but how do they talk to their accounting firm and say, we need a little help with this?
Yeah, so a lot of it is whether they're creating errors, like the auditors are finding issues with the numbers coming out. And then you're looking at the time. So if there's reassessments, modifications, or new leases that have to be entered. So think of somebody, it's quarter end and they're looking at their timeline. Oh, we've got to add 10 new tabs into our workbook and we've got to join those because, we've got 10 new leases. Three of them, other leases expired. Oh, we had a modification on one of the leases. So there's a lot of manual work just maintaining those just to get, okay, I think we got the right numbers. Then you're generating the journal entries and then you're trying to map those into your accounting system. So there's a lot of steps when it's manual. And I want to also say is, some of these leaders are going to say, oh, we have a system that's good. I don't hear any complaints. So people have gotten a habit of accepting what they have. If they've got a solution that gets them halfway through the journey, they say that's the best, not realizing, with a lot of your audience saying, maybe we should look, maybe there is a better way. So that's why, we came into being is we say there is a better way. Don't be satisfied with it's okay. We want it to be we have no issue, because Once you do that and you free up the accountants, then you start allowing them to be more analysts and business partners and more time to look at the data, look at the information, make recommendations. Because if you're just processing journal entries and data just so you can get those financial reports by the deadline, you lose that ability, where accountants are best is, the business partner to be able to say, geez, why are we leasing all these? Maybe we could buy these type of things.
Again, I think once upon a time, you and I both have a little gray hair. There was advantages to leasing, and now maybe, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know that enough accountants are stopping and revisiting the math. And I'm not picking on the accountants. I'm just saying they're busy. Sometimes you need that extra level of insight, because the old days, the advantage was you didn't have the debt on the books, whatever your cash outlay was, that was your impact on the financials. But as you said, now we've got debts and we've got long-term and short-term and
Bank covenants and all of that, and it used to be a game where do I lease or buy so I have more room so I can borrow more money? And this is why the stock regulators put these rules into place to normalize. So if you're a construction company that leases all your assets versus one that buys, from an investor point of view, you should be able to say you're comparing apples and apples, so you understand what it is. It was just too complicated before, and that's why these regulations came into being.
well, and now I'm seeing a lot of strategic acquisitions, and I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of extra math involved where, different companies in different countries, different, there's different rules. But I feel like, and by the way, I used to groan whenever somebody handed me a file and said, hey, the client just got a new lease. And I'm like, oh, please no.
Yeah. Well, yeah, even for the small companies, and you brought up something with mergers, acquisitions, and that's I'm going back to my, last 20 years of management consulting. I worked with a lot of companies doing M&A activities, bringing their financial systems together. And, the traditional is we keep with what we have for systems. And what I'm trying to educate people saying is, what if you inserted a new tool during that process and you bring the old, or the acquiring company plus the buying company together, bring their lease information together in one system that's streamlined versus trying to merge data from one old system to another old system or joining a bunch of spreadsheets. So, in that process, I see a huge opportunity, but traditionally, accountants are shy away from it, during that M&A activity. And it just goes back to my experience over the years working with clients doing that is, hey, if we can insert some new technology, this is the ideal time to do it, is during that, not after, don't wait till after. Take advantage of what's available. And I'm not just talking about lease accounting. I've done many companies where we've inserted a new ERP system. We're bringing two companies together rather than picking which one we're going. We're saying we're going on to a brand new platform. It's going to streamline.
Love that. And I think that's the challenge. We're not looking at the big issues. Now, let's talk a little bit about the founder journey, because I think I'm going to guess that you and your son have learned some lessons. And I appreciate that you've got this vast amount of experience. What advice would you give to founders? What lesson have you learned that made the biggest difference in where you two are today with Black Owl?
I think the biggest thing is, there's so many people trying to give you advice, and I'm going on the marketing and sales advice, outbound, inbound, outbound marketing, and all of that. And, I've attended a lot of sessions, talked to a lot of people over the years. And it's funny, you go back to what your gut tells you, where you're having somebody saying cold emails, cold this works. And you go, well, I look myself and it doesn't, I don't seem comfortable. 1 in 100 may resonate. And that's sort of the industry trend. So it's trying to get warm introductions, meeting people who are having those issues. So, there's a lot of advice, there's a lot of groups trying to tell you what to do, but I'd say the biggest advice lesson learned is go with your gut. We've gone down numerous paths and I would have said, oh, this, I should have done that. I should have listened to myself. So, do I have the answer? No, I don't, but I feel more comfortable with the direction we're going.
I love it. Now, one of the things I hear from a lot of founders is they feel like they're alone. Who are the advisors that you've leaned on your journey? And you don't need to name names, but generally speaking, who are some advisors that you think a founder should have in their corner?
Great question. So, we're fortunate enough to have some early investors, and these are experienced businessmen who came with industry experience. And then, so they've been invaluable advisors, but it's other ones in my network and people I've met. So, we're accounting software. So I leaned a lot on the accounting firms, people I knew at the Big Four, getting introduced to other people who have know similar companies. So keeping in contact with them have been so invaluable. The list, I couldn't even name all of the people who've been so valuable, and I continue to keep in contact with them. It's always bouncing ideas. It's not that they may give me a lead, it's they're giving me an idea, they're giving me advice. They've got the ground to the ear, or their ear to the ground, sorry. And they're saying this is where the trends are. Like last year, especially during COVID, when we're going through that, business was slow in the whole market, and they're saying, okay, this is why. Their clients are not wanting to do anything because of those uncertainties. And then 2023 hits and the world changes. People are back open for business, and all of that was confirmed from these advisors. Some others through the tech ecosystem. I've met some other like companies, and a couple of them have become friends. They're a little further ahead on the journey, and so I meet regularly once a month with these companies. We exchange notes, exchange ideas, what's worked, what hasn't. So that's what I suggest to any new founders is find people who been in the journey trying to do it. It doesn't have to be the same type of product, but something that you say, yeah, I think their process is going to be very similar to where I might have to go, and leverage them. And it's back and forth. It isn't just them sharing. It's, hey, I tried something, and one of them I invited on a business development trip I did a couple of weeks ago to Houston. He joined me, so we had some joint calls together, and it was all about networking.
I love that. And I think that's, part of what I talk a lot about is that networking piece. And, it just fascinates me that everybody goes out, starts their company, they're passionate, they want to change the world. And then they think, oh, I'm going to go it my own. And it's like, I love that joint expedition. I mean, the reality is if you have a couple of partners that are synergistic to you, they're non-competitive, why wouldn't you do joint presentations or find other people to hang out with that also serve your same audience?
Yeah, and I've been through a few of the accelerator programs already, and those have been valuable lessons going, building your ideal ICP, ideal customer profile, what persona you're trying to sell into, what's your market message, your unique proposition that you're trying to do. All of those things have been valuable, putting the foundation together, but it's getting practical experience with people who've been through those similar journeys, and they've learned from their mistakes, learned from their successes.
Love it. Now, how do you deal with uncertainty? I'm going to guess you have that advisory board. What advice would you give to people who maybe are just starting out and they don't quite have that community or connections?
What I would suggest is go to friends, colleagues, and bounce off ideas, because you need that sounding board. Now, I'm very fortunate, part of our organization, I have my son. So what he brings is a different generation. So, my generation and his generation are definitely different. They're different buyers, they have different demands. What I've seen from his generation, from the clients, is they want streamline. They don't want to be wasting time in spreadsheets and doing something that's not value added. It's all about streamlining, and it's much more, and our system's built on that. But I never realized until we start talking to that, I'm not going to say age group, but that group of people who are demanding excellence. Where before people were just satisfied, got a job, got my spreadsheet, I'm not going to complain, and just keep my head low and deliver my journal entries when asked for.
Yep. Love it. Now, one thing I want to cover before we move too far past it is how can a founder have a conversation with their accountant about Black Owl and more specifically improving lease reporting? Because I think one of the barriers is that the visionary, they want to talk about the big vision and the picture of what the company's going to do.
Right.
And maybe it's more how do they direct their internal accounting department, but at some point somebody's got to have that conversation. What's the best way to approach talking about Black Owl and managing lease transactions?
So I'm just going to try to share sort of, I'm going to a profile company. So, you've got your, the CFO, controller, your manager, financial reporting, and then at the bottom, or, I don't want to say at the bottom, to me, at the top, the person who's doing the lease accounting. And, for when we're trying to reach out, I've just mentioned 4-5 different people in that organization who are impacted. So if I go to the top and I talk to them, they may say, no, I don't hear any issues. We did when we transitioned, everything is good. The controller, they may say something, or they may know that there's some challenges. But when you talk to that person who's doing it, who's living in those spreadsheets, or that system that's giving them challenges, that's where you hear the story, and they're going, wow, this is, we really struggle here. But that was never communicated up. So when you have the opportunity to get all of those people in a room and you share the story and people realize it wasn't happening. So for us, a lot of it is talking to the right person who's willing to champion that cause. And this is no different than I'm going to go back, many years ago when I was leading an internal audit group for an oil company in Western Canada. And one of the things is we did a lot of operational audits, and we did something called controlled self-assessment. And that's where we facilitated a 2-day workshop. Rather than doing a 1-month operational audit, we said, okay, we're going to put it into 2 days of workshop where we got everybody in the room and we walked through the business process and looked for where the controls and the preventative controls and the risks were. And it was amazing when we facilitated those sessions, the different information. And I'm just flashing back to one time, one of the admin assistants, she was the one who understood the process the best. And, the VP was just in awe saying, I never knew you realized all that. She says, well, I sit here watching everything, and so it's the same type of thing, where somebody thinks they may not have a problem, and actually you peel the onion and there's a huge problem there. But the person doesn't want to say anything. So one of the things where I'm very happy when I have the opportunity where we can shed light and people say, for me, it's not about making the sale, it's about identifying where somebody's unhappy with what they're doing.
I love that. And I think that's kind of a really big deal where you can help somebody have just a better job, a better life,
Oh,
right?
exactly. Well, and especially in the accounting industry where there is a shortage of professional accountants, there's fewer people going into the profession. So everything a company can do to improve the quality of life for the employees, that's critical.
And I'll just point out for the accountants watching this, and by the way, for the business owners, if you're not sure how to talk about lease accounting, you can send them to this podcast episode. But one thing I would say for the accountants, and this is from my heart, and Greg, I want to hear your thoughts. Business owners have more complexity than ever. if we as accountants, with our backgrounds, with our training, if we help our clients, this setup of streamlining operations is one of my favorite value added services. It's good business, but it's also more fun for the accounting people because we get to play in real-time data and things like that. So I'm a big fan of helping accountants understand when there's a value added service. And my 2 cents, and Greg, you can chime in, is anytime you got a whole bunch of spreadsheets to get your year end or your month end done, that's probably a consulting opportunity. Fair?
Yes. Oh, exactly. One, I'm going to share this from a demo we did last week, and one of the accountants in it who saw it, he said, "We're a $1 billion company. Why do we not even have this system now?" He said, "I don't want to even go back to my office and look at those spreadsheets." And it was a true statement. And the controller looked shocked, and he says, "I'm serious. Like, why do we not have this?" And so, yeah, because that's just one element. As I talked earlier, lease accounting wasn't a part of the accounting organization, 5, 6 years ago. Now it's something that's an extra burden. And, some organizations have had to add extra staff, but you look at the impact of how much extra touch points for a journal entry for lease accounting has versus a normal payable transaction is huge. And there's a lot of other complex revenue accounting out there, whether it's revenue or a lot of people still struggle with fixed assets accounting. There's too much effort. So there's a lot of complexities, and if you can just remove one element, that's a win.
Love that. And one software company I talked to, their mission was something about absorbing complexity. And I was like, what if every accounting firm out there thought like that? Because I know this went against everything in my being, but when I realized founders don't want spreadsheets to play with, they want results. They want, traffic light, simple KPIs. They can say, yeah, here's good, here's bad. But yeah, they don't want to go back to their office after meeting with you for an hour and have to figure out what your spreadsheet is. I used to be guilty of that, Greg. I thought everybody loved Excel, but turns out no.
Yes.
All right. Well, now I could talk to you about this for forever, and I love the fact that you're a multi-generational business. You looked at retirement not as I can't fathom spending the rest of my days on a golf course. So it's
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I say retirement, for me, that just meant slowing down a bit, because I have no visions of stopping. I've got the friends who've retired and they're golfing every day, and or traveling all the time. To me, I love working, and so it would have just been a different page. So this was just a different page for me.
I love it. Well, for those listening who need your help or want to learn more about Black Owl, where can they go and how can they find out more?
The best thing is go to our website, blackowlsystems.com. That's the best place. There's a lot of links to connect with us. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can shoot me a message if you want. We've got a site, Black Owl Systems on LinkedIn as well. So, just reach out. Love to talk to you. Love to have a conversation. Where are your challenges? And if it isn't just about lease accounting, whether it's with your ERP system or any other finance transformation challenges you have.
I love it. Well, Greg, I want to thank you for being on the show. Before we wrap up, you are the expert at being Greg. So I'm going to ask you a really tough question. For all those would-be young startup companies out there, what's the best advice you've received and what would you pass on to someone just starting out?
Oh, just starting out is, a lot of people, when I've seen other early founders, and I saw this in some of the accelerators, they really didn't have a good handle on their numbers, the forecast. What do we need? Try to do a worst case scenario. Try to really look at, what do I need to spend? What money do I need? So many people are undercapitalized when they start. And I would say that's the biggest suggestion I have is start out, understand your numbers, do various scenarios. If it takes off, and then, product development. I've talked to a lot, I was in a pitch competition, a few months ago. Did it more for the fun. And people came up to me after and said, your software is done? I says, yes, our software is done. Oh, well, we're a long ways off. We're just still the idea. Well, you've got to really understand what you are. When are you ready to hit the market?
Love it. Well, Greg, I want to thank you. I love the journey, and I love the fact, everybody's saying how hard it is for intergenerational. I love to see people who are making it work and figuring it out. So thank you for hanging out with me and for sharing your entrepreneurial journey with my audience.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.